Hello, wonderful. It is Sarah, and happy to have you here. If you were a part of yesterday's live event, my entire day changed when it snowed at my house and schools got delayed. And so usually I have the kids at school and I'm able to do 9 a.m. events, and that did not happen yesterday. So if you saw the live, it was me like in the snow, like pulled over, trying to do the live. So a little crazy. So thank you. When I said I would do these 9 a.m. Little chats, I was like, I hope you give me some grace, because it's been interesting this year with virtual school and then snow. We do not have snow this time of year usually. So it's been interesting. But I want to talk to you today about letting go of past hurts and letting go of them. Okay? And one of the biggest things is making sure it is a past hurt, not trying to let go of current hurts. Here's why that's important. If someone hurt you a year ago, then and they're out of your life, or things are better now, then it's, worth letting go. If someone has a continuous pattern of hurting you, what toxic people will do is pull the flip on you and say, oh, you just need to let that go. Or you go to a pastor, or you go to some counselor who doesn't understand this or something, and they say, oh, you just need to forgive and forget. You need to forgive and move on. It's like, well, but the pattern is they do the same things over and over and over again. They're nice and they do it again. They're nice, they do it again. They're nice and they do it again. Okay? So if that's the pattern, then it's not healthy to let it go. It's stupid to let it go, because it's like if somebody robs your house and you're like, oh, I just need to let it go and forgive them. It's like, girl, they're about to rob your house tomorrow. They're going to rob your house tomorrow. Don't forgive someone who's going to rob your house tomorrow. Don't. It's not nice or spiritual or Christian or Muslim or Catholic or whatever it is to open the door and let the person in who's going to rob your house tomorrow. So if the hurt is really in the past, let it go. If you're a toxic person who's trying to do the flip on you and talk you into letting things go that you should remember, don't let those things go. Okay? Those are two very different things. It's a strategy toxic people use a lot. Okay? But if something happened a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and you're still ruminating in your head about it, okay, then that is something to let go. Because to your nervous system, you're still on high alert. Oh, they called me this. Oh, they did this. This happened. Yin yoga is a really great way to calm down your entire nervous system. So I highly recommend that. If there is just a very one incident, like one incident that is replaying in your head over and over again, EMDR is by far the best source for that, like the one incident. It was created for PTSD in war. Okay, so if you're a lot of our PTSD work and that sort of thing comes from the government trying to figure out how to get war veterans back into society. Okay, because nobody's going to fight in the army if every time someone comes back from the military they're messed up, or I don't want to say messed up, but we want them to be able to enter with healthy emotions and hopefully healthy physical sense and be able to go on to lead productive lives, which there's been some concern for some people within the military within that. So EMDR was developed. So say you were beside your buddy and you watched them get shot. Okay, that's a very one isolated traumatic experience. EMDR would be very helpful for that because it was a very one-time isolated experience. If you saw a really bad car wreck and there was a one-time isolated experience, I highly recommend EMDR for the one-time isolated experience. When you get into conversations about complex PTSD, let's go back to the illustration of war. And let's say you were kidnapped. and kept in a torture chamber for 8 years. And they starved you, and you didn't get to eat, and they called you names and made you doubt your own reality. That's not a one-time isolated incident. That's where we get into like complex trauma or complex PTSD, okay? Because it's like all these, it's multifaceted. It's not a one-time shock factor. If you've been in a toxic relationship, for the most part, it's going to be that complicated situation. It made you doubt your own reality. You didn't understand what was going on. You kept trying to earn love. It was never good enough. Those type of things, right? It's much more complex than just if, it would be very traumatic if a stranger came on the street and, told me I was a horrible person and, got mad and hit me in the face, right? That would be a horrible experience, right? And that would be a one-time horrible experience if, you had a father who did that. And for years and years and years, they, you never knew, I love you, I hate you, I love you, I hate you, I love you, I hate you. It's a very different situation than a one-off experience because it makes you doubt yourself. And many of you know I was in I had a very difficult October. I had a stepson in a car wreck. My husband's dad actually had a stroke this November. I mean, it's been a really very, in the car wreck, the other child died. It was in the news. He was in the hospital. It was just this hugely, horribly complicated October. And people said, and then his dad had a stroke in November, right? So it's been a lot. And people said, oh, how are you still smiling? How are you still going on? And I was like, well, the most stressful situations to me are when people make you doubt your own reality. Gaslighting, cutting down your self-esteem, disconnecting you with knowing who you are and how to make good decisions for yourself. That's a lot worse. And not worse. There was a child that died. I'm not in any way minimizing that. But it's like, oh, this bad thing happened, this accident, this is a horrible situation. We know we can get health care. But when someone's made you doubt your own reality, the process of learning how to trust yourself again, learn how to take care of yourself again, learn what was a lie and what was true, going through the cognitive dissonance of they acted like this person this day, but then they were this person this day. How do I match the two of those realities together? It's a much more complicated process. So first of all, I want to ask, who would be good at that? And this is a question I ask myself all the time, and I'm trying to have grace with myself and be kind to myself. Because people always say that. Oh, you should be kind to yourself. Oh, you should have grace with yourself. You should not be so hard on yourself. Well, how? Right? And that's my big beef with much of the healing community, because it's like, oh, they need to tell you, forgive, be happy, let it go. All these things, it's like these blankets they throw on you. But then it's like, well, what's the plan to do that? What's the strategy to do that? And they're like, well, so whoever you choose to help you on your healing strategy, I'm really big about healing strategies. Make sure there's a how involved, not just good ideas. Okay. So good idea. You should forgive. Well, thank you. I had no idea I should forgive, that gets complicated. So when you think about the letting go of past, or being gracious with yourself, that's what I was talking about, being kind and learning to have grace with yourself. I think I asked myself, who would be good at that? Okay, because it's easy for me to compare myself to others. Oh, they're such a better writer than me. They're such a better this than me. They're such a better this. But when I think, well, who would be good at having someone they loved be one person one day and a completely different person the other day? Well, no one would be good at that. Well, who would be good at putting up with the, cycle of abuse? If you've ever seen the cycle of abuse, where it's like love bombing, then leads to control, or then maybe lead to scare tactics or shutting you out. And then they tell you they love you. Well, it's like such shaky ground, right? Like everywhere you step, it's like there's a sinkhole. So who would be good at walking on sinkholes? Who would be good at walking on the ground where somebody else is shaking it, where they never know what the day is going to bring? I'll tell you who's good at that. No one. No one is good at that. So when you think about learning to forgive yourself through that, that helps me so much. Who would be good at that? Because it's easy to beat ourselves up. Oh, I should have been better. I shouldn't have let it bother me so much. Some of you have situations where there's a partner or someone, maybe you've already been divorced, and they use your kids against you and make you feel like a bad mother. Or feel like you're a bad person for not doing what they want. Maybe your own mother makes you feel like a bad mother for not being the version of mother she thinks you should be. Who's good at that? Who is good at handling people criticizing their being a good mother or using their kids against them to control them? No one is good at that. Now, you can be good at ways to handle it and get better strategies for handling it. That is a skill you can learn. But as we think about letting go of past hurts, that's how do we manage the emotions around that? And have kindness and grace within those emotions and say, oh, sucky situations aren't meant to be handled well. There's a phrase and it says, you had a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. A normal reaction to an abnormal situation. And as you think about forgiving yourself after those past hurts, or maybe you lost it at some point, or you got angry, or they pushed your buttons one too many times, who would be good at someone making them feel like they were just a doormat or a dirt or like a dog that got kicked down? Well, I don't really think people should be good at that. I don't think that's something to be handled well. It's like, okay, so if you behaved badly, and we've all done things we wish we had not, you had a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. A normal reaction to an abnormal situation. That, telling yourself that not only helps with the cognitive dissonance of like, did that really happen? Did I really say this? Is there really this type of pattern? Because it's like, oh, that was a bad situation. That was an abnormal situation. That should not have happened. That isn't normal. There are marriages or partnerships or relationships with parents that doesn't happen in. Okay? And so much of letting go of past hurts is understanding what happened and getting clarity around that reality. And then you can get to letting it go. Okay? But the thing is, you should have been angry about it. If a crocodile bites you and you got angry, and then you kind of come to the situation like, how do I not let that crocodile bit my arm off and I just don't want to let it bother me? And it's like, what? You should let that bother you. That is something to be bothered. If crocodiles bite you, that is something to be bothered by. And a lot of us are asking about getting rid of past hurts when we should be asking about giving ourselves permission to be angry. Because if you cannot get angry when someone hurts you, people will continue to hurt you. If your healing strategy is talking yourself out of like, oh, I shouldn't let things bother me, you are setting yourself up for continuing a toxic situation or finding yourself in another toxic situation, because bad behavior should bother you. An abnormal situation should bother you. If someone pokes you in the arm, or a crocodile bites your arm, or remember the old ice skaters, like that ice skater that came up and hit somebody in the knee? Was it Carrie? I don't know. Those people I'm talking about? Tanya Harding. It's Tanya Harding, right? And if Tanya Harding, I think she was the one who hit somebody with her knee, right? Like they were ice skating, and it's like, oh, if someone comes up and hits you in the knee, and then your strategy is, how do I let go of that? How do I not let that bother me? That's further along in the process. First thing, you should be mad that they did it. And the disconnect I see is so many women wanting to skip to the let go of past hurts. And the first stage is getting mad that the hurts happened, because that's how you make sure they don't happen again. If toxic behavior doesn't bother you, then you will always be around toxic behavior. That's like your danger signal. That's your body's signal. It's like you touch the hot oven and it burned you. Don't put your hand there anymore. And if you get close to toxic behavior and it doesn't burn you, you will never be toxic person proof. You will continue to have burns on the fire. You'll be holding your hand on the flames. Your skin will be melting off, and you'll be going to a therapist saying, like, how do I not let the loss of my hand get to me? And it's like, girl, you got your hand on the oven. Get your hand off the oven. The toxic person's not turning down the heat. So the first step is like, oh, the oven was hot. My hand was there. And then processing through that. Because eventually EMDR, like I said, is great. Yin yoga is great. But first step is getting angry that there was hurt. Because that's how you make sure the hurt doesn't happen again. That's your body's signal to say there was danger around. And you probably ignored that danger. I ignored that danger for far too long. So don't let the first step be talking you out of that behavior bothering you. Let it bother you. It should bother you. And that's also how you earn that adrenaline, that fire, that urge, that survival technique, right? Like when we're in toxic situations, we turn off our survival techniques in hopes of like, well, if I don't let it bother me, then I can stay in the situation, which is why they stretch out forever. Also manipulation, and they're horrible people, right? You know, not victim blaming in any way here, but we all, me, turn off our survival techniques to stay. And the first step is turning your survival techniques back on. Then you learn new strategies that allow you, okay, I'm not ignoring my survival techniques anymore. I am able now to keep myself safe. Then the hurts don't bother you as much, because the hurts are scary when you don't feel toxic person proof, when you feel vulnerable to other people hurting you, and you feel vulnerable to those situations. Okay? So, recognize what happened. Recognize the grace with yourself. I had a normal reaction to an abnormal situation. If my hand is on the oven, and it should burn me. Like I should feel upset that it's burning. If a crocodile bites my arm off, it's okay for me to recognize and be angry and mad that there was a crocodile that bit me. Then how do I keep myself safe? Because letting go of past hurts is still a little bit about the past. And a better strategy is saying, how do I make sure this never happens again? Because it's about protection. Letting go of past hurts is about your body sending you signals like, oh, you couldn't keep yourself safe. Learn how to keep yourself safe. Learn how to become toxic person proof so that your body is no longer in survival mode, hoping to keep you safe next time. Okay, hope that helps. Hi, Tracy. Hope that helps. And we'll have another event for you guys tomorrow. Have a great day.